And welcome back for part two of this fine Thursday night's wrestling talk show, Wrestle Talk Show. Again, I'm your host. We all hope that you listened to part one or watched part one. We left off discussing the Blumenthal investigation that requests for the reclassification of the workers, the wrestlers, for those of you who don't know the lingo, and the reclassification would possibly lead Vince McMahon to have to pay back taxes, and more or less by default, these guys would then get like benefits like Social Security, and kind of Vince would be mandated to give them benefits all across the board. And just to kind of get into it a little more, um, I don't see this as a bad thing. You have, like I discussed in part one, you have wrestlers like Matt Hardy and whatnot, and other wrestlers, Jeff with his drug problem, TNA more or less announcing that if he doesn't clear the charges, they're probably not going to. I shouldn't say they announced that. I take that back. That was not announced. But I think with all the drama that that's done, um, I really don't. This is my opinion. I really don't see them kind of giving him any more slack or renewing the contract if it doesn't go in his favor. And don't you think, you the fans, don't you think it's about time Vince paid for these guys? Because again, he works them, works them, works them, and then he has the luxury, because of their classification, to pay the hospital bill that's current, or whatever got them injured, buy out their contract, and then Vince McMahon has no more responsibility. I think it's safe. This is again my assumption, but that's been the whole reason why he's done this. He wants that. He wants to be able to, at a moment's notice, be able to walk away from anyone. When Lance Cade died, they kind of went out on a limb. Well, Linda McMahon was commented as saying, I think I met him once or twice. The man worked in your organization. Why, if you were going to say something like that, why say anything at all? One would think she would have embellished that a little bit, or because of the roster. I know it's a big roster, but get to know your talent. And if you don't say on national TV that you didn't know, because it makes you look bad. Didn't know if you knew Linda, but it isn't just the money that gets you into office. They want you to be relatively smart. You don't have to be a genius. We proved that with the George Bush election. But don't give your opponent ammunition. That's all I'm going to say on the campaign. But these guys deserve it. I mean, come on. Look, not going to say he's not a veteran, but look at The Undertaker. Is he a veteran? Yes. Is he looking sloppy being a veteran? A little bit. Does he still have it? Definitely. But my scenario is on this, kind of these guys that retired and either came back or retired just to go to another brand. It's almost mind boggling, but Ric Flair's the first one that comes to mind. Kevin Nash kind of follows. Mick Foley follows right after that. What was the point in retiring? I mean, they basically made it now to where they're going to be remembered for their current material, and it's going to be remembered as some of the worst. I thought the whole point of retiring was going out on the high note, not extending the note, or not getting, or just for the boost in ratings to retire. What's the point if at the end of this retirement you're going to look worse than you did when you retired? The point is to leave on a high note. Um, but again, I think the Blumenthal investigation is great, because this time, because of that, again, Linda McMahon. If Linda McMahon wasn't running for Senate, none of this has all been known, but it's never been pushed. Now it's quite possible that Vince McMahon might have to pay back taxes from 1983 when he nationalized and kind of got rid of the last territories. On more depressing news, here's a theory for you. What about instead of all these backstage antics and hijinks and all the happy stuff you see on Raw and TNA, I'd say, what about 6 months of straight athletic matches? No goofing off, no nothing, just showcasing the wrestler's ability. Think about it. And I'm calling it 6 months of athletic matches and just see what it does for you. It can't hurt, right? TNA, public knowledge, they received major financial aid for 2010 with no real results yet. It is not an endless leash, and the family, from what we hear, is looking for major and quick ratings improvement. Good luck with that. You have Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo on your payroll. Probably not going to happen. Again, it's real quick. Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo's only focus is to take WWE out, and any ship that they sail on is going to become a pawn in that agenda. They don't care about the fans. Eric Bischoff could know less about wrestling. He was out of it for 10 years and didn't, as shown on TNA, how stupid he is. I really have no use for him. Other videos have kind of pointed that out, so there's no real reason to bring that back up. Jeff Hardy went bringing up the topic that I mentioned about his contract. He finally had his court date on September 9th, 2010. Details on that are not known right now, but we will get that as quickly as possible to you. And we're just, what happened here? And I mean, I've said this on a couple different shows, but where did the unpredictability go? Why is it such a bad, just different questions to put out there for you guys. Outside of being an egotistical bastard that we all know he is, why wouldn't you want to say thanks to your employees, regardless of the industry, by giving them insurance? Instead of basically looking them in the eye saying, we're going to give you a fistful of cash, but if you get hurt, it's all over. I don't think that's fair. I know there's similar things in NFL that are like that, but I don't think it's as cut and dry, where with Vince McMahon, it is that cut and dry. One day you could be there, and because of this classification of independent contractor, he can just buy the rest of your contract out, pay off your most current hospital bill that broke you, or whatever the scenario may be, or you lost your spot and couldn't get the fire back, so you wound up getting let go. It's basically an easy pass for Vince McMahon to use you as a professional wrestler. To all those who have dreams of being in the WWE, I would shoot for your independence. I do not encourage anyone lately to go to WWE. I think that your independents have some of them, let me put it this way, they understand how to write. That's a good way to put it. They're not just willing to throw whatever they want into their program. They want things to make sense. They want these feuds to be followed by fans. And they want the fan to overall be entertained. And that's the misconception that WWE has. WWE thinks that they're in a league of their own in comparison to UFC. But if you look at it from a simpler aspect, pro wrestling still has athleticism. The only thing UFC did is when it took Vince McMahon's statement of this is all predetermined and kind of, showed you that, hey, this is real. And it's got a different audience for that. But it's not to say that your fans will not follow athleticism, because they will. They will follow interesting matches. The John Morrison Match this past Monday was an amazing match against Sheamus. I was kind of upset to not see him win, because I'm getting kind of tired of Sheamus. I do not agree with a push that kind of spit in the face of other wrestlers. Push him, more or less like they did Brock Lesnar. And the only thing Sheamus did differently is Sheamus didn't leave after he was pushed. Um, there's no real reason for it. There's guys that certainly deserve it more, and that's kind of always stuck in my craw about that. Um, but again, getting back onto it, why is it so hard to make entertaining storylines that your fans want to follow? You cannot just keep safety netting this thing where it gets to a point, or as the years go by, where, oh, at least we have the kids. At least we have the kids. You want the demographic of 17 to 34, if not older. I used to know years ago, again, I hate to bring it up, but yes, it was 10, 15 years ago. But old men, senior citizens, were watching this because of the feuds. They knew it was predetermined, but they wanted to see what would happen next. Kind of like Howard Stern got his start, if you want to look at a different industry but same perspective. They didn't really like him, but he got the following because they wanted to see what he would say next. Because he kept going. Like, you wanted to see what would come out of his mouth next. And it's the same thing with wrestling. UFC can have its market, and they do, because it's real competitors, real fighting. But again, all they're doing is what WWE could be doing. They're hyping up the competitors, they're hyping up the matches. You want to see these matches come to a close where somebody gets a belt or somebody gets what they got coming to them. And it's not a difficult concept. Make things that can be followed. Don't, just because you have the money, throw whatever you want on TV with no real direction, until sometimes I think at the end of the night they look at where things went and then they figure out where they want to go with it. Because again, like I said in part one, they're kind of lacking in attention to detail, like this Michael Cole GM thing. Why have a computer in front of him if he's just reading off a piece of paper? I mean, WWE used to be smarter than this. You gotta, closing up here, I just reread my TNA announcement about their financial aid, and it made me laugh again. Because you gotta wonder when Bob Carter's just gonna call Dixie up and say, you know what, we're done. You tried, I tried, we're done. They're still making money, so it's not gonna happen immediately. But these guys gotta do something. I mean, Raw, WWE already does it because they do it because they know they can. TNA shouldn't be doing it because there used to be an X division that sold seats. Now they have a problem selling out the Impact Zone. Does anyone else see the issue? We all know it's predetermined. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be entertaining or can't be entertaining because it's predetermined. I hear some people say, oh, UFC is better than WWE. It's real. Yeah, that's the only thing it's got. Everything else is the same variable that wrestling has. Same variables that wrestling has. Anticipation and storylines that the fans follow. Your fans follow it. And you can sell tickets, even with the predetermined, with the athleticism. That's all for now. For more information, feel free to go to WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Be sure to support the show in any way you can. We're always seeking fan donations, and there's details on our website about that. Check up on the latest forums, videos, etc. Be sure to subscribe via YouTube. Send all wrestling comments, questions to cwecompany@gmail.com. Until next time, Have a good night.